Hey y'all, my name is Devontae and I sacrificed my time so you don't have to. I was planning on doing this video a little bit earlier on today, but as I told you guys yesterday, got written up at my job, had to go there, sign some paperwork, acknowledge the fact I did what I did, yada yada motherfucking yada. Then I came home, went grocery shopping, had to cook dinner, so I didn't get around making this video. Now it's around like 3:35 in the afternoon. I figured drop it right now because, I mean, shit, I gotta get ready for Dynamite. But this has been on my mind for a while now, and I was thinking about this actually when driving up to work to keep my mind off of the bullshit that happened yesterday, and it's about MJF. Now, we talked about MJF a couple of months ago, honestly, and his title reign overall as far as where he stands within the company, because his title reign, and honestly, now it's in the future, and I just think that Tony Khan's a bumbling fucking idiot when it comes to knowing how to book his world champions. But with MJF in particular, I felt like his title reign in specifics was being ruined, you know, not because of MJF the character in itself, but because of what AEW was doing with the character at the time. That was around the time when they were doing the whole devil shit and, you know, who is, you know, is you ain't my devil, right? That's what they were doing at the time. And if I gotta go back and watch my old video that I did on this, but if I remember correctly, my consensus on the matter was specifically blaming, I think I said something along the lines of I wanted to put like 40% of the onus on MJF and 60% of the onus on Tony Khan, because I did feel that MJF as a face character really didn't have anything going for it compared to where he was as a heel. And I'm going to kind of contradict myself here a little bit, because I was saying in the past, now I've completely let go of that thought process, but in the past I used to have this thought where I used to say to myself that, you know, if you're a heel, you should be indebted into it. There's no such thing as go away heat. Go away heat nowadays is just called heat. You know what I mean? Everybody's too much in the know. And I keep up with the sentiments of the cool heel being terrible and everybody being in the know, right? And the fact that you're even acknowledging the, you know, perception of someone being a good heel must mean that they're not doing a good job. Now that I'm a little bit older, that was a dumb fucking statement to make. I made that statement back in like 2021 or 2020 maybe. It's a dumb fucking statement, you know what I mean? Because you do have go away heat. There is such thing as that, right? You do, for the most part. I still kind of hold on to them, kind of half and half on the whole perception of if you acknowledge someone as a heel, that means they're not doing their job correctly. I'm half and half on that, but at the same time, I still, at the very least, look at the whole cool heel juxtaposition. I do say to myself, nah, you know, that's not the way to go, right? That's something that you should not be doing. And I still say to myself that the detriment and the Achilles heel of most professional wrestlers nowadays when talking about the business is not so much not having good heels, it's not having good baby faces to counteract the heels. Because if you were a good enough baby face, no matter how cool you come off, you should be able to overcome how good that heel is, right? If it has anything to do with the character as far as their fundamentals, what they bring to the table, that's on them. If it has anything to do with the storyline writers or the people who create the characters and put them on television as far as the booking is considered, that's on them. But always look at the fundamentals of the fact that the heel is only as good as the baby face. And that's when we come to MJF. And two things. All that I just said right there, I'm setting it up for a purpose. When it comes to the aesthetic of a go away heat, does MJF have that right now? Do you guys in particular believe that MJF at this moment in time, because of how, I'm not going to say how clean cut he's coming off at the moment, but at the very least, he's not where he used to be when he was a heel and he was a little bit more edgier. You know, the way he used to carry himself, you know, it added a bit of nuance as far as the storyline was considered. Now, granted, yes, after a while, in particular when we got around the CM Punk feud, in my opinion, it did get a little bit tiresome. But you know, when he was doing the stuff with Jericho initially, when he was running the feud with Cody Rhodes, obviously, that was actually really, really fun, right? I liked all that shit. I thought that shit was fucking fun as hell, right? You know, eventually when he was doing the stuff with Warlord to a lesser degree, kind of like the CM Punk stuff, it was getting very tiresome. So I understand the sentiments as far as going forward and eventually turning them babyface. You didn't do that for a while. You tried to freshen him up with the whole little shoot blurring the lines gimmick, brother, when he cut the promo on Tony Khan. But every time you look at MJF, if it wasn't for the fact that he was always being overshadowed, it was looking at what the hell his other opponent was doing to pretty much fuck him over for the most part, right? Or compromise him. But then you come to MJF and it's like, okay, well, MJF, what is next? I mean, I can't be the only one who's crazy here, right? Because that's the problem with how they book MJF, is the sentiments always comes back to, if it's not the opponent overshadowing him or somebody else overshadow him outside of AEW with some news tidbits, most likely brought upon the company because of his own stupidity, it always comes back to MJF, and you ask yourself, what are you going to do next? For an example, when he was coming back just now, right, at Double or Nothing, I can't be the only one who looked at him coming back and him fighting Adam Cole and beating him up and right, and he cuts the promo. Okay, cool. So you kind of put the exclamation mark on that right there, right? You kind of zipped up the Ziploc bag on that one right there, right? You put the toothpaste back in the tube and all that other good shit and metaphors. But where do you go from there? That's always been my problem. Where do you go from here? And it seems like whenever they actually initially give him a feud as a babyface, at the very least, in my opinion, looking at what he's been doing lately for the past year or so, it always seems completely underwhelming, right? If it's not underwhelming, then it's the booking of the character in itself that makes absolutely no sense as far as the coin. Right, how do I put this? I'll give you a perfect example. So you had MJF and Kenny Omega, right, last year, and they had a match. I could have been the only one who said to themselves, like, whoa, does it make any sense to have Kenny Omega and MJF right now? I couldn't have been the only person who said that, right? No, I mean, I'm pretty sure like everybody else, they were probably saying, well, you're having a world title match against Kenny Omega. It's probably not best to do this on Collision. It's probably best to put this somewhere like on a pay-per-view to get much more money out of it. Or you should probably run a feud, or you should run an angle. You should do something to get the most out of it. You should get, no pun intended, the max out of whatever you're doing with MJF and a Kenny Omega. That's one of those kind of things that I was talking about earlier as far as the booking compromising who MJF is. But after you get done with Kenny Omega, even with him being the world champion, it was always coming back to what's next? What's next? What does he do from here? Where does he go from here? What does he do now? What does he do now? What does he do now? And if it isn't for the character in itself, you know, having so much overusage on his fundamentals, because MJF is obviously a good promo. I think I talked to someone about this a couple of weeks ago on the community post. I think I mentioned the fact that MJF is indeed a good promo. No one's taking that away from him. You know what I mean? MJF, as far as how he carries himself, very old school. He can be a little bit goofy sometimes, but at the same time, old school, right? He carries himself very, very well. But that's only so much you can go with that when you rely on the fundamentals too much, right? It's like talking to me, or talking to anybody for that matter, and you're saying to yourself, oh, well, I can boil water, so therefore, you know, there's a bunch of these food items that happen to be on the table because I can boil water. You know, so you got some noodles, you know, you got some coffee, you know, maybe you can boil an egg. You know, there are a bunch of things you can do with boiling water, but it is limited. It is very limited if that's all you know how to do is boil water. Even though there's some variety to it, it is still limited, and there will be a time, maybe not now, maybe not in the near future, but there will be some time where you will get sick and tired of the feud that requires you to boil water, right? Eventually you're gonna want something a little bit different. Hell, even if it's unhealthy for you, you know, in comparison to say like the Elite, right? Just making a metaphor comparison. If you're gonna eat food like ice cream or junk food or, you know, chips and candy or whatever the case may be, at least it's not boiled water. You know, obviously it's better from a health standpoint than eating junk food and candy, the Elite. But at the same time, it's like, damn, bro, like I want something different from my taste buds to be exposed to, right? Right? That's how I feel about MJF, where it's like, even those who come after him, even if it's like they're not fundamentally better than him, it's like, well, at the very least, you know, like it's something new, it's something refreshing. And that's where the whole perception of what I meant about booking and, you know, putting them in the correct positions to get over comes from, because there's only so much you can do as far as relying on your fundamentals. As I said before for MJF, you have to give him angles, legitimate angles. Not, I'm better than you and you know what angles. No. What you did with him and CM Punk in the final 2 weeks before leading up to Revolution in 2022 is what all his feuds should be overall going forward. There should be some reasoning. There should be some satisfaction behind it, right? Not doing stupid shit as far as angles that are technically angles from a storyline standpoint that doesn't really figure in wrestling, like the devil stuff, because that was stupid, that was corny. Clearly you didn't have that planned out going into the future, or at the very least whatever you had planned out you had no backup plan for, because it obviously got fucked up with the injuries, right? right? See, if you had something going for an MJF, in my opinion, you would have done it already, because clearly he's the guy who's going to get your company over from a rating standpoint, from a viewership number standpoint, right? Not to big numbers, but at the very least, for what you can see right now, the little things that he's doing just based off of his own fundamental training, that's enough to do some numbers for his segments on your television show. So imagine what would happen if you took that and you broadened it out and you actually gave it some mustard. You put some fucking sauce on that goddamn hamburger or chicken or nuggets or whatever lame ass metaphor you want to use. My point being is, if you gave him some help, you gave him some legitimate storylines to attach his teeth into without it being corny. You did it legitimately, again, with the CM Punk angle. Granted, it shit the bed in my opinion from November all the way up until February, but once you got to February, right before Revolution, you started to cook with that feud, in my opinion. And it's those kind of storylines, whether it was him talking about his Jewish heritage, whether it's talking about him looking up to CM Punk and CM Punk lowering the ball on him, whether it's him terrorizing people like Warlow, that's what we call legitimate storytelling, right? It's a TV show, episodic. You want to be able to attach yourself to a storyline, not a basic fundamental story of one guy's better than another guy. Like I said, if you leave it up to MJF, yes, obviously he's going to do his best to make it get over as much as humanly possible, but at the same time, when he's the only guy who can actually reflect off of whatever story he can do, once again, with whatever he was trained to do, there's only so much you can go with it. Like I said, I take you right back to the boiling water analogy, right? All I'm asking for is for MJF to kind of sink his teeth or give him something to work with, because if you're not going to give him anything to work with, then we kind of hit the road, right? We kind of go to this path. We get to this point in time where things become finite, right? And then you really have to ask yourself, okay, even with MJF being younger than the age of 30, you know, and it's not to say that MJF is a bad wrestler, absolutely not. I'm not going to call him a bad wrestler, but I can damn sure tell you there are other people within the company who can do more market shit than MJF. He is a fantastic wrestler. He is a fantastic seller. But it's those things coincided with the storytelling of MJF, as far as what you give him from an angle perspective, is what actually gets him over as a character, right? That's what actually distinguishes MJF from the rest of the crowd. But when it's just literally MJF having to go out there and have nothing to work with but his wrestling moves, then he just becomes nothing more than just one of the boys, right? He just becomes another jack-off, because you literally stripped everything away from him that made him MJF. And then it's even worse nowadays, because now he's a babyface. You know, I got so many people telling me, well, there's a potential matchup that can happen, because I'm the first person to let you know, and I'll ask off rip. I'm not here to stay within the AEW bubble trying to pretend a match against him right now going up against Will Ospreay is going to be whatever cuts the mustard, right? I'm not here to pretend that right now what he's going to do with Swerve Strickland potentially could do something that could bring the house up, right? I'm not going to pretend that, because I don't feel MJF character at the point right now is at its hottest point, because usually MJF, outside of maybe the CM Punk feud, usually MJF is the one who is carrying the feud. He's the one that's setting the pace of the feud. He is currently cold right now. At least for MJF standards, he is cold. And then you have Will Ospreay, and then you have Swerve Strickland, who lack already in the character development department. Well, Swerve Strickland's a little bit up there too, but he's nowhere near to the caliber of what MJF can produce, right? Let's just call a spade a spade. I like Swerve Strickland, but he's not up there with MJF from a character standpoint. So then it just comes to the point where you literally have a guy, for the AEW faithful at the very least, who is not on par with the wrestlers that they like from any perspective. And that's where he lies right now. That's, in my opinion, where he lies right now. I don't know what to tell anybody besides the fact that, well, you look at the current state of AEW, you look at the fact they don't necessarily have any stars on them. Don't let the AEW faithful fool you. They have no legitimate stars at all. You know what I mean? We're now at the point where AEW as a brand draws more than the stars, which is saying something, because AEW isn't a draw. But we're at that point right now where the brand, now legitimately with all the stars gone, all the WWE stars and have gone back home, they legitimately have nothing to rely on but the brand name in itself that they've been building up for 5 years, right? So now we've reached the point in time. There are no wrestlers who can legitimately lead up or go head up with an MJF. And even if they were to go head up with an MJF, he is in no position right now to be feuding with anybody to make me at least believe that this could be anything hotter than what the average wrestler already does in professional wrestling, let alone AEW. And it's a damn shame. It's a crying shame, honestly. Because there are so many ways, there are so many things you can legitimately do with this character to put him in a correct position, but you fail to do that and you won't do that. And it's crazy because he has all the tools to make anything that you give him interesting. You fucked him over multiple times as far as his feuds are considered in the past. You've overshadowed him for no fucking reason, whether it's the wrestlers themselves or the stupid shit that you do outside of professional wrestling. You undercut him constantly when he was world champion. You had him doing stupid shit over and over and over again as far as goofy stuff, like the shit with Adam Cole, like the shit with Chris Jericho. And then he gets injured after all this dumb shit. He comes back and he's colder than fucking ever as a babyface, so you literally don't even give him a rope for him to grab onto to get pulled out of the abyss that you want to call the vacuum of suckage that is AEW. You see where I'm going with this? But you'll have the AEW faithful who will sit back and lie to you and say shit like, well, the product has never been hotter than ever. Have you seen the crowd attendance? Look at what happened for Forbidden Door and the ticket sales. Well, I would assume for that to be the fucking case, considering that it's a pay-per-view, right? I would assume that to be the case, because in the end of the day, you are selling tickets for a show way ahead of time with a bunch of superstars that I guarantee you that there are some indie talent who don't necessarily care about AEW, who want to see the New Japan Pro Wrestling talent head up on a wrestling card in America, which they don't obviously get an opportunity to see all the time, right? That's clear as fucking day. It's not as if New Japan Pro Wrestling didn't draw an MSG, for an example, a couple of years ago. They broke records too. There are professional wrestling fans who don't care about AEW, who want to meet the New Japan talent, who maybe even want to meet the CMLL talent. To get 10,000 people into a building, that ain't a hard thing to fucking do, buddy. That's not a hard thing to do. But you have these people who will grasp onto these straws and grasp onto whatever anchors they could get their fingers into just to make up any excuse to do the fucking hard work, or make up any excuse to get away from the fact that your ideas, what you believe professional wrestling should be, fucking sucks. And who gets brought down with that? Your so-called stars who could have potentially been legitimate fucking stars, who maybe even one would consider had been stars. Now, granted, it would have been more like a proton star, maybe even, a dwarf star, but a star nonetheless. It ain't a planet, it ain't a moon, it ain't a fucking asteroid, it ain't no dwarf planet, it ain't no comet, so it has to be something in the solar system. It's a fucking star. And you fucking had it, and you fucking ruined it. Because you were so busy trying to play action figure general manager wrestler. You were so busy with your stupid ass sickos and your little E-Fed chat rooms talking about, well, let's get go up against and a 30-minute fucking fuck fest, do 6 finishers in the first 5 minutes of the goddamn match, go outside the ring, hit someone in the head of a chair, they get back up 3 seconds later, go back in the ring, take a clothesline kick out at 2, yet get up from a no-sell job when getting hit in the head of a fucking chair. You're so busy with this stupid fucking mentality that you don't even recognize that you have stars within your company who could be legitimately bringing more fucking viewers to your company, who probably did it initially and probably can still do it if you can rebound from the situation that you put yourselves into. But here we are right now. So I'll leave the question up to you guys. Where does MJF go from here? What does MJF do after this? What does MJF have? What is his goal? What is his intention? I read somewhere that MJF doesn't even focus on the World Championship right now. He said it's not the right time. Buddy, you lost your championship belt injured. What do you mean it's not the right time? It should always be the right time. You're a former world champion. But like I said, that's the kind of character development that they're doing for a guy like MJF. Yet, they'll put all the focus and attention on people like fucking Okada to say bitch every 5 goddamn seconds. Like that shit is supposed to be fucking hilarious, bro. The only thing hilarious is your fucking hairline. The only thing hilarious is what's gonna happen when Hiroshima knocks your asses out for good. The fuck out of here, man. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below regarding MJF and his potential or lack thereof going forward into the future. I'll be back later on tonight for the AEW review. Be funny if I actually reiterate the same point twice when I see him on the show later on tonight. We'll see though. As always, my name is Devontae and I'll be catching you guys later. Deuces, P. Ice.